Well, today what I'm going to do is show you how easy it is to use dried flowers, real dried flowers, in resin to make some great jewellery. I'm going to show you some different methods and different techniques. Today I'm going to be using these new dried flowers by Resiners, and you get a lot of packs in a pack. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 packs, and you get quite a nice variety of flowers as well to choose from. Some large, some small. I may use some of the dried flowers that I've dried myself in the past, and I always have a great selection of dried flowers and bits and pieces. Now, when I take them out of these packs, these vacuum packs, I like to keep them somewhere nice and easy to access where I don't have to rely on these packs. And that way I can see a little bit easier of what I've got, and I can get hold of them a little bit easier as well. You also get a little set of tweezers in these packs of dry flowers, which come in very handy. And they're a great price because normally these are quite expensive, these little packs of dried flowers. I bought quite a few different ones. Oh, I like that one. So I'm going to open those and pop those in this little pot, ready to be used. And then I can make a decision on what ones I'm going to use, and I'll show you how to go about using them. So I like to plan out what I'm going to do when I'm using flowers. I just find it's so much easier than to follow a pattern rather than doing stuff really just here and there. Now, what I need to do when I'm doing my open bezels is work normally, because this is how you will see it, because I will dome that up and that will be the front. But when I'm working on these, I need to remember to reverse all this, because the front is going to be the bottom of the mold. So even though I've got them round the opposite way, when I fill them up with resin and put the bits in, I will reverse these over. And I've used these little charms. You can buy them by the bagful like this, really cheaply. I will link them in the description below. A lot of them already come with hoops on that are connected. Now, I don't want those hoops on, so all I do is take a pair of wire cutters to them and cut them off, and then I'm left with a charm that I can easily use. And I'm not going to put charms in all of them, because I think that would be overkill, and some of them I like to put quite a lot of things in. And then other things, like these ones for the open back bezels, I actually like just a really simple piece of either flower or stem or leaf in it, because you can get some really great results. Here I've got a flower, and all I've done is add a charm to the top of it, and that is going to look really, really pretty when it's finished. So enough of me jibby-jabbing on. Let me show you how I place these in and get them finished. Now, you could use UV resin for this, or you could use epoxy 1:1 resin. It just takes a little bit longer with the epoxy 1:1. I'm going to be using UV resin today. Use a good quality UV resin if you're putting flowers in, because the heat of it curing up and the UV resin can cure and cause the flowers to discolor, but I haven't found that with these ones. Now, what you can do, and this is another tip, if you think, actually, I'm going to dismantle these while I work, all you've got to do is take a quick photograph of them, how you've got it set up. And then you can go to that as a reference as and when you're doing things, and then you know that you've got it how you want it. You will need some damming tape. I like this really wide damming tape that you can get from J Diction. It's also a heat-proof tape. Make sure these are pushed down nice and firmly. I use a pencil, almost like a little rolling pin, to go over them, and then you've got them pushed nice and firmly down. So first thing I'm going to be doing is working on my open back bezels. I'm using UV resin, and here I'm using the low viscosity UV resin because I don't need it to be domed. I want it to lay lovely and flat, and because this is nice and thin, then it will lay lovely and flat. I'm putting in a little thin layer to start with like this, and giving that a couple of minutes, not only will it allow any bubbles that I've squeezed into this to come up to the surface, but it'll also get nice and evenly coated, and it'll show me any areas where I need to perhaps put another little drop or anything like that. And then once that's sat there for a couple of seconds, I can go over it with a long neck lighter and burst any bubbles that have come up to the top. If there's any bubbles that are stuck to the sides, there is one there, then I can just release that like that and then quickly burn it off. And now all I need to do is cure that up for 3 minutes, and then that's my base to work onto. So now I've got those in there like that, what I can do is take a look at my photograph and then place my pieces in and around where I was going to put them. And I'm using the tweezers that came with these flowers. There we go. So they're all in there. And now the next stage is to go over these with a little bit more UV resin. Now I'm using again the low viscosity one, because if there's any trap bubbles under these flowers, then those bubbles will release so much easier through the low viscosity resin than they would through the thicker resin or the high viscosity one, because I can always dome these up at the end using the thicker resin. I like to go over the actual item that I'm putting into the bezel first, as you can see, because that way the flow of the resin is not pushing it or moving it around. I'm just going to edge that into these corners. Any bits that are sticking up, I can now push these down. And what I'll do is I'll leave that for about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm working in a room where there's no natural light coming in anyway. So I'll leave those for about 3 or 4 minutes, and that allows any of the bubbles that I need to come up. So you can see quite a few trapped ones in this particular dried plant. And there was a big bubble caught under that. Be gentle with them though, because you don't want to be ripping up and tearing up your flowers. And now I can go over them and burst the bubbles and then cure them up for another 3 minutes. So they're all cured now, but I do want to dome these up. So now what I'm going to do is go over them with a high viscosity. I like the way that the high viscosity just sits really where you want to put it. And also it gives that magnification of what you've done. A little tip, if you keep pressing very gently on your UV resin, then it'll give you a nice flow and you're less likely to have any additional bubbles put into it. There we go. Now I'm going to give that a couple of seconds. That's not too thick. I'm going to go over it with a long neck lighter. But each one of these, when I dome them, I'm going to dome them individually for 60 seconds, because that'll set that enough. It won't fully set it, but it'll set it enough that it's not going to move and flow over the sides while you do the other ones. So I do all of them each for 60 seconds. And then what I will do is blast them all for 3 minutes to fully cure. So these are all cured now, and I can take them off my damming tape. Now, when you take it off your damming tape, if you do it slowly, you'll find you won't get any of that stickiness left attached to it. It'll just come straight off. Another tip is, did you know that UV resin lamps don't last forever? They have about a year life at the most, and then the bulbs start to lose their strength and they'll stop curing up, and it's time to replace them. Because if not, what'll happen is you'll be left with sticky UV resin after it's cured or not cured at all. I replace mine every about 6 months because I use them quite a lot. So there we go. They're all done now. This is what I mean by having them see-through, and just simple little flower in them is so pretty. And this is where you decide whether you want to put a backing on them or leave them transparent. Now I'm going to leave those ones transparent, but that one I am going to put a backing on. For this you don't need to use obviously any damming tape, and I'm going to be using the glitter UV resin for this, and I'm going to be using the brown, which to be perfectly honest I think looks like gold. So I'm going to dome that with that. It's a really nice thick resin, so it's going to stay exactly where you want it, and it will give a great backing to your item. And then just cure that up. So there we go. That's how that looks now. It's completely finished. I think that has come out great. I love it. The little charm inside it as well with the backing on that. So that's those ones done. They're really easy to do. So now we can move on to these, which are a little bit more complicated, but still fairly easy to do. Now, I'm definitely going to be working on these one at a time. So all I need to do is take these out, put them in a rough idea of how I'm going to have them. Make sure I've got the flowers around the right way. And remember, I'm working reverse because this is the actual front of the mould. Give that a bit of a wipe out. It seems to have picked up some dirt, or I probably haven't cleaned it properly, because we want the front of it to be clear, because this is where we're going to see things. If we put a dark colour in there, then we're not going to see anything. I just realised I've been in my new studios now for over a year, but I've never actually done a tour of them. If you'd like a tour of my studios, let me know in the comments, and then if there's an interest for it, then I'll definitely do one. And I can show you around how I store everything, where I keep everything, and how I work in such a really quite a small space. So again, I'm going to be using the low viscosity resin for this, keeping an even pressure on what I'm using. So the bottle here, and just going around and putting a layer in there. I'm going to burst that, any bubbles that have come up. Now, if you want to, you can lay your flowers directly on it, like that. But I do like to cure mine first before I go ahead and do it. So what I'm going to do is just put my UV light on there and give that a cure for 3 minutes. So now that bit's cured, what I can do is go back in here with some low viscosity resin. I don't want to make it deep, just another layer, and I can pop my bits in here and then give that a cure. So where you've put your flowers in and your other bits and pieces, what you'll find is these bits are going to cover up your UV resin. So your UV resin may not cure under them. That is why I'm shining my UV light through the bottom to allow those bits to cure up. So now I've done that, what I can do is put another thin layer of UV resin over this. And this is so it gives it a little bit more depth. And then I can make a decision whether I'm going to have this as a clear all the way through or put a colour on. So the last thing I'm going to do now is add a bit of colour to this. I'm using the yellow UV resin here. It's not got any glitter in it or anything. And all I'm doing is a thinnish layer of this over it. First any bubbles, and then I can cure that up. So that's all done now. What I'm going to do is go ahead with the rest. Finish them off, then I'll show you what they look like, and if there's any problems in there, we can address why there's problems and what we could have done to avoid them. So these are all cured now, and we can take them out of the molds. Now, I think it's always good to manage expectations as well. I'm fully aware that not all of these may come out how I want them to look. There might be trapped bubbles in there. There might be pieces that have moved around. There might be pieces that have not worked how I want them to work. And I'm okay with that. And if you're working with resin or any art or anything like that, then I think it's important to be okay with that too. In my members group, we often talk about, you know, oh, it didn't go right this week, or it didn't go right last week, or didn't go right today, and I've had these problems and had these problems, and we help and support each other out in that, because don't get despondent, because if you do, then we never learn, we never grow, and we give ourselves too much of a hard time. So let's take a look at these and see how they've come out. So there's that one, and the first one has come out. I absolutely love that one, and it's got a nice lot of depth in it. Doesn't need doming up, because it's already domed with this mould. I love this mould. And the colours have really worked well. Not too many unwanted bubbles. And that is going to make a lovely pendant. I really like the little charm on the side. So that's the first one. And that's come out well. Let's look at this one. So this is the second one. And again, that has got a nice bit of depth in it. I'm going to leave that one clear. I didn't put a backing on that because I just don't feel it needed a backing on that one. So that one has come out okay. I do like that one. And what we learn as we're moving on is little techniques that can help us have more successes than failures. See, that one I'm okay with. I like that one. But I think I should have got that flower a little bit more central down there. And I've got a little air bubble. I'm not sure if you can see it there. that actually doesn't need to be there. But overall, it's not too bad. Okay, I'm happy with it. Now this one has got an air bubble right in the middle of that flower. Well, right on the middle of that petal on that flower. And I'm not sure I like the backing colour of that either. I think I should have put a different backing colour on. Can't even remember what colour that was. I do like the position of the Pegasus. I think that's come out quite well. But I think the colour of the back of that one washes out that flower a little bit. I think has come out really nicely, although I should have put the elephant further down because you can't quite see its ears. The glitter backing on that one has come out okay. There is a bubble there, but that hasn't detracted from it too much. So I quite like that. And the same for that one. I like that one a lot. This one hasn't come out too bad. There are 1 or 2 bubbles around the edge, but they're okay. I do like the unicorn in the middle of this one. I think that's come out really well. And I believe I was right not putting a backing on that one. I do like the little lizard on that one. And the backing worked well on that one. There isn't too many bubbles spoiling it in any place. And I think the flowers really do show quite well in that one. That one hasn't worked out quite as well as I had hoped. I would think I don't know. I'm not sure I like the design on that one at all. Although it's okay. Maybe I should have put a coloured backing on that one. But we can't always get it 100% right. So I've laid these on this piece of paper because I think it shows them off a little bit better being on white. I'm pleased with how most of these have come out. 1 or 2 I could make improvements on. But overall, I think once they've got some nice pendant pieces on, push bails, and some chains or cord, I think they're going to look good. Overall, without a doubt, that is my favourite. I really like the way that one has come out, and I like these single ones. I'm also really pleased with most of these. I hope you've enjoyed this. Check out the video I've got coming up next if you want to learn some more advanced techniques using UV resin and how to make jewellery. I look forward to seeing you over there. Boot the like button, hit the subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.